Hello, my name is Jacob Farkas, and today I'll be teaching you how to play my work-in-progress board game, Spawning Grounds. So in Spawning Grounds, you and up to 3 other players control the 5 species of Pacific salmon: Chinook, Chum, Coho, Sockeye, and Pink. You'll start in the ocean at the beginning of spawning season, and you'll work your way up the river, discovering new river tiles that contain different spawning habitat, obstacles, and rewards as you go. The goal of the game is to build redds, lay eggs, and successfully defend your eggs from the other salmon, and the player with the most salmon spawned at the end of spawning season wins. To set up the game, each player will pick one of the 4 colors, and they'll take the player board along with its associated egg and red tokens and the dice. So each of the species of fish is represented by a different size dice, with the Chinook being the D12, Sockeye being the D10, Coho D8, Chum D6, and Pink D4. They'll also take a marker here and set their energy track to 5. When setting up the eggs on the player board, make sure you put the little clock icon face down on your player board. This will be explained later. The next component that players will need to grab is a stack of the 8 different action cards in the game. All players will have a full set of all 8 action cards, and I will explain those slightly later. Once all players have their action deck and their player board set up, the ocean tile can be placed in the middle of the table. This will be where all fish will begin the game. So all dice from all players can be placed in the ocean. And in this example, I'll be showing a 3-player game. They can also grab the round order card, which is just a reminder on how each round will take place. They can grab this stack of river tiles, and it's denoted as a starting stack as it has this icon on the back. They can grab the bag of other river tiles, and they can grab the 3 tiers of perk cards, as denoted on the bottom of each card. They can grab these black dice, which are the predator die, the 3 eagles, and the bonus tiles over here. Once all these components are prepared, you are ready to play Spawning Grounds. To decide which player takes the first player icon, each player can say the last time they've caught a fish, and whoever most recently has caught a fish will be the first player. So now let's talk about how each round of the game will progress. So the player with the first player token will draw a river tile, first from the starting stack, and once that's expended, from the river tile bag. So the tile they will place directly on the ocean on one of the 5 spots. And then the next player will place one, and so on until each player has placed a river tile down. River tiles can only be placed such that water is connecting directly to water and not land. So for example, this would not be a legal placement because you have water going directly into land right here. Now, once each player has placed the river tile down, all 3 players will choose 3 action cards from their action deck and place them face down. Once all 3 players have declared their actions, play begins. Now is a good time to talk about some of the unique icons you'll find on the river tiles in the starting stack. So firstly, there is the pool, and this is how players will regain energy. So when they have fish in the pool and they take the rest action, they'll get 3 energy back per fish in the pool. So if the red player were to take the rest action on this turn, they would get a total of 6 energy. The next icons are going to be spawning habitat, and these are very important for scoring points in the game. So for here, this is the pebble spawning habitat, indicated by the P in the bottom right corner, and this is the gravel habitat, indicated by the G and the smaller dots. So if you look on the player board, each fish has different spawning grounds that they're able to spawn in. Chinook is cobble only, Sockeye is cobble and pebble, coho is all habitats, chum is pebble and gravel, and pink is gravel only. So for this, if the green player wanted to spawn their sockeye, they could put it on the pebble tile, but not the gravel. Their chum or their coho could go on either or. Their chum could go also on either or because they can spawn on pebble or gravel. And their pink could go only on the gravel. The next one is the bear icon. And this is one of the predators in the game that salmon will have to avoid. So as soon as a fish enters the bear tile, they have to try to evade the bear. And this is done by taking the corresponding dice indicated on the tile, so in this case the D8, from the predator dice over here. So you would take the D8 and this purple player's chum, and you would roll them against each other. And in this case, the players both rolled a 6, so it would be a tie, and in all cases, all ties, the bear always wins. So in this case, this salmon would die and return to the ocean. If you were to roll higher than the bear, you would instantly get a perk card, which are these cards over here that are separated into 3 tiers and will be explained more later. They'll also immediately move to an adjacent tile. So if you were to evade this bear, you would either move to any one of these adjacent tiles. And if there was no tile there, you would draw a tile and place one there. The next predator is the eagle, which are different from the bear. As the bear is stationary, the eagles can roam the map. So when an eagle tile is drawn and placed on the river, you'll take one of the eagle pawns and place it on that spot. And when a salmon enters the same tile as an eagle, they may choose to fight it or to evade it, unlike a bear where you must. So if you choose to evade the eagle, you will always take a D8, this die here from the predator die, and roll against it. And in this case, the purple won. So you would be able to move your fish to any tile on the map. And this basically represents getting picked up by the eagle and then struggling free and landing somewhere else on the river. And then after that happens, you would roll a D4, and that would indicate where the eagle moves. So the numbers correspond to the cardinal direction, so 1 being north, 2 being east, 3 being south, and 4 being west. So I rolled a 2 here, so that would be east, and there is no tile to the east, so the eagle would wrap around all the way to the other side of the map. And in the case of predators, if you ever roll under what the predator rolls, so say the predator is a 6 and this Chinook here rolled a 5, you can choose to spend 3 energy to re-roll only your die and hope to beat that number. And whatever number you get, you are stuck with. Now that we've familiarized ourselves with some of the icons that you'll find on the river, let's talk about actions. So there are 8 actions, and in spawning grounds, the way actions work is that the first unit of action is always free. So what does that mean? So for a move action, when you want to move salmon on the river, moving 1 fish would be completely free. However, if you wanted to move more fish, you would have to spend energy. So if you wanted to move this guy here, that'd be free, but then you would spend 1, 2 energy to move your Chinook to this eagle tile here. But you could also spend as much energy as you are able to move any of these fish to any tile, as long as you can afford to pay it. So now let's talk about the instinct action. This allows players to draw and place tiles from the river pile and the river bag onto the river. So say you resolve the instinct action, you'll draw a tile from this stack at first until it's empty, and then you'll go from here, but you'll draw it and place it on the river. And because that was the first unit of that action, it's free, but you can choose to spend up to 1 energy to place a second river tile. Unlike movement, this isn't unlimited. You can only draw 1 extra river tile using instinct and spending 1 energy. The next action is rest, which we briefly covered, but this allows fish on pools to gain energy. So if the red player takes a rest action here, any fish on any pool on the whole river would get 3 energy per fish. So in this case, they would get 9 total energy. The next action is Build Red, and this allows players to take advantage of the spawning habitat on the river. So in this example, if this green chum were to take this Build Red action on this gravel tile, they would take one of their green red icons or tokens and place it on the river. And same as every other action, this is free. If there are other viable spawning habitats that they have their fish on, they could place more reds. Once you have reds built, you can then lay eggs on them. So for this, green player takes the lay eggs action. They place their chum eggs token on top of their red token. And now this guy has laid eggs. So this turn, this fish is what is known as a zombie fish. It is basically spawned, expended all its energy, and it will die at the end of this turn. So say the turn is over now, this guy is going to come to the player board and will be temporarily out of the game. And at the end of this turn, these chum eggs will flip to the incubating side as indicated by this little clock icon. And at the end of this turn, those eggs will be secured and they can no longer be destroyed, and they will count for points at the end of the game. So the way players prevent other players from securing their eggs is by using the compete action. So say there's this red Chinook here that goes to the tile that has the green chum eggs on them that are incubating. If they're undefended and the red player takes the compete action, they will instantly be eaten and destroyed and put back on the green player's player board. However, if the red player does, or the green player does still have another fish to defend those eggs, the 2 die would be rolled. So in this case, there are 2 Chinook. The red Chinook is attacking the green chum eggs, and the green's friendly Chinook is trying to defend them. So you would take both dice and you would roll them. And in this case, it's a tie, and defenders win ties. So those eggs would not be destroyed. And in this case, because you defend successfully against a compete roll, you would draw a tier 2 perk card, which again, we'll go over those later. But if the red player rolls higher, those eggs are destroyed. And similar to predator rolls, either player can choose to spend 3 energy to re-roll their roll only once, but once you are committed to re-rolling, you are stuck with whatever outcome that is. And the way to defend your eggs or reds from other players is by using the defend territory action. So that would just allow you to move other fish off of your tile. So say before the compete even happens here, if the green Chinook takes the defend territory action, they could bump off the red Chinook. And this can only be done once per fish. So say that there are both of these attacking red fish on this tile, the green player would only be able to move 1, and they couldn't spend extra energy to move 2 with only that 1 fish. If, however, they have 2 fish of their own on that tile, they could spend 1 energy to move both of the attacking red fish off. The final action is Jack, and this is how sneaky fish can lay their eggs in other players' reds. So in this example, there's the green red on the gravel tile, and the purple-pink fish has decided to take the Jack action. You would then take the pink eggs and place it on the green player's red. And this is the only way to lay eggs on a red that isn't your player's color. And this represents basically biologically, salmon will do this if they're undersized. They'll sneak in pretending to be a female and then quickly fertilize eggs before the larger males can interfere. And in this scenario, you do still need to have the proper spawning habitat. So a pink or a chum or a coho could jack this green player's red, but a Chinook or a sockeye could not because it is gravel territory. So now that we know how every action in the game works and the different tiles that you'll encounter as you play, we can go over a full round. So first, all players draw the river tiles. We resolve actions going one by one until all 3 actions from all 3 players are resolved. And once the actions are resolved, any zombie fish, so fish that have laid eggs, so for this example, this chum here had laid his eggs, and this round ends, he dies and goes to the player board. Any eggs are secured, so if there were other eggs that previously had this incubating symbol face up, they would be secured, but in this case there aren't any. Spawn salmon are removed from the game, so those are the salmon who have successfully secured their eggs. They would be fully removed. Any eagles move. So any eagles on the map, you would do that D4 roll that we talked about earlier to decide where they move on the map. And then perk cards are drawn. So perk cards are little fun bonus cards that allow you to do crazy things in the river. Perk cards are divided into 3 different tiers, and 1 being the most basic and 3 being more advanced. And each perk card will have a bit of iconography to get familiar with on it. So there are one-time use cards, and these can only be played one time, and then they're discarded, and they can only be played on your turn. Whereas perk cards with this lightning bolt icon can be played at any point. They're still one-time use only, but they can be played on other people's turns as well. And then there are also persistent perk cards, which once played will have continuing effects for the rest of the game. So initially only tier 1 perk cards will be available, but as the game progresses, the other 2 tiers will become available as well. And that happens for tier 2 when any player lays eggs. So as soon as a player lays eggs, all players can now draw from the tier 2 perk pile. And as for the tier 3, as soon as eggs are secured, so they've been laid, they've waited around, they've incubated, and at the end of that round, they're now secured, now the tier 3 is available for anyone. And if a pile of these ever becomes empty, and you are meant to draw from that pile, you would draw from the next lowest available pile. So if you're meant to draw tier 2, but tier 3 isn't available yet, and there are no tier 2 cards left, you would draw from tier 1. And that is essentially how a round of Spawning Grounds progresses. There is, once perk cards are drawn, the first player token is passed to the left, so in this case to the purple player, and the round would continue. So there are a few more unique icons found on river tiles that are only found in the river tile bag. The first being the cobble spawning habitat, which works the same as all other spawning habitats, but is available for Chinook, Sockeye, and Coho only. The next tile to get familiar with is the bonus tile. So when this is drawn and placed on the map, you immediately draw one of the bonus tokens, which would be face down, from the bonus token bag. And it is placed on that river tile face down. So as soon as a fish enters that tile, that specific fish gains that bonus. So in this case, it was the purple sockeye, and you flip it over, and it is a compete or defend territory bonus. So you would place that in the bonus slot for that purple sockeye. And now that particular sockeye has that option to take those actions in addition to their 3 action cards that they've chosen for that turn. So say there's a round, the sockeye is taking the move action, and it moves onto a tile with eggs of another player. Even if they don't have the compete or defend territory action in their 3 cards that they've chosen, they could still take one of those actions regardless. And the rules of the first unit of that action still being free still apply. So that compete or defend territory would cost no energy, and they would only be able to move 1 fish with it if they chose to defend territory, and they would still have to roll as normal. This just allows fish to have a little bit more versatility and for you to have a couple more actions available to you if you're able to get some bonuses. And once that bonus action is used, that bonus token is discarded. And now that fish could get a new bonus action if it encounters another way to do that. And each of your fish can have up to one bonus action at a time. The final unique tile is the dam, which will go on the river and will cost extra movement to pass. The dam only costs extra movement to pass when you're going upstream, so from the ocean further upstream into the river. So what that means is, say this purple sockeye wanted to get to this cobble tile, it would need to, instead of spending 2 units of movement to get there, it would need to spend 1, 2, 3, 4 units to get there. And once it crosses the dam going upstream, it would receive a reward of 1 bonus token, which we just spoke about, and also that player would get the highest available perk card. Now this only works when going upstream. When going downstream, it just acts as a normal tile. So if it was trying to go back down there, it would just be 2 units of action. And this allows you to control your area of the board a bit more and make it more difficult for fish to reach you, while also being rewarded for going upstream. So the end of Spawning Grounds is triggered when the final tile has been placed from the river tile bag. Once that tile has been placed, there will be 1 full round, and then the game will end, and scores will be tallied. So the way scoring works is for each successfully secured egg, that is worth the dice value of that fish. So for example, a Chinook would be worth 12 points, Sockeye 10, Coho 8, Chum 6, and Pink D4. However, if there are any eggs that have not been secured, so are still incubating at the end of the game, those are only worth half points. So these Chinook eggs here that weren't secured and are only incubating would be worth 6 points. And these upside down reds here mark where eggs have been successfully secured and returned to that player's player board. Additionally, any unused reds at the end of the game are worth 1 point. So the final tally in this game would be for green. They had their Sockeye, Chum, and Pink spawn, so that would be 20 points from there. And they also have Coho eggs, which have not been secured and are still incubating. So those would be worth another 4 points, so a total of 24. And for the red player, they had their Chum and Pink spawn, so that's 10 points. Additionally, they had unsecured Chinook eggs, so another 6 points, so 16, plus 1 for their red, giving them a total of 17. And for purple, they have their Chinook and Sockeye for 22, and 1 red for 23. So the winner of this game would be green with a total of 24 points. And that is my game, Spawning Grounds. Hopefully that all made sense and you're excited to play. It's still very much a work in progress, but I think it's got a lot of potential, and I hope you see that too. I think as for the potential of it exciting children and just getting people excited about salmon in general, there's a lot of educational potential there as well, in terms of both understanding the life cycle of salmon, how they start in the ocean and then go upstream to spawn, building reds, competing against other salmon, the interactions they have with predators, bears, eagles, the hindrance that dams cause in rivers that are human-made. Yeah, there's a bit of some abstractions made to make it into a board game, but there's enough of a biological basis there that to get people started and yeah, to just get people interested. So it's been a pleasure. Have a good day.